Hi everyone, today we're going to be going over different types of cellular death. So starting with apoptosis, this is programmed cell death, and it is a process of selective cellular self-destruction. It occurs in both normal and pathological tissue changes. For this process to start, the enzymes inside of a cell are going to be turned on, which will cause the cell to digest its own proteins, as well as its own DNA. Then the cell will be destroyed by white blood cells. This type of cell death removes cells that are being replaced. It removes cells that have worn out, and it removes any unwanted tissues. This type of cellular death is also linked to several degenerative diseases. The next type of cell death is autophagy, and this occurs when our cells are starved. So an autophagic process will institute cannibalization, and the cell will recycle all of its digested contents. With this, our cells can maintain cellular metabolism under the starvation conditions, so the cell is able to remove all damaged organelles under the stress conditions, which will overall improve cellular survival. And enhancing autophagy can decrease the incidence of cancer in our bodies, as well as it can prevent the development of degenerative diseases. The next type of cellular death is necrotic cell death, and this is cell death from all cellular changes that occur from persistent injury. So it is pathological or unregulated cell death with inflammation. The cell death can occur in an organ or a tissue that is still a part of the living organism. So when necrosis occurs, the cells will swell, the organelles will break down, and the cells will rupture. Some structural signs of this are dense clumping and distribution of genetic material and the disruption of the plasma and organelles, which will overall end up in irreversible cell death. Some of the characteristics of necrosis. So necrotic death is caused by marked changes in the appearance of cytoplasmic contents, as well as the nucleus. With this, infarction is going to occur, which is tissue death. And this occurs when an artery supplying an organ or part of the body becomes occluded and there is no blood supply. The shape of an infarction is conical, and it corresponds to the distribution of the artery and the artery's branches. And some causes of the occlusion are going to be a thrombus, an embolus, a disease of the arterial wall, as well as pressure from outside of the vessel. And there are many different types of necrosis. So starting with liquefactive, this is when dead cells are digested and they leak out, which will cause a cell to be, or a cyst to be formed. And a lot of the times you could see this in an abscess, so in the neurons and the glial cells of the brain. And it can also cause bacterial infection inside of the cell, or it can be caused by bacterial infection like E. coli, streptococci, or staphylococci. The next type is coagulative necrosis, and this occurs when acidosis denatures proteins and albumins, which is going to change the gel into a hard and opaque substance. And this occurs in our kidneys, heart, and adrenals. The next type is caseous, and this is a combination of liquefactive and coagulative necrosis, and one common cause of this is tuberculosis. So when this happens, the dead cells disintegrate, but the debris isn't completely digested, so the tissue will become soft and granular. Fat necrosis occurs when interlobular adipocytes are necrotic and they're surrounded by inflammatory cells. So with this, the tissues are going to become opaque, as well as chalk white. The last type of necrosis is gangrene, and gangrene is a large area of necrotic tissue that is caused by hypoxia and the subsequent bacterial invasion. So dry gangrene is a lack of arterial blood supply. However, venous flow can carry fluid out of the tissue. With this type of gangrene, the tissue is going to become black or brown. It's going to dry out. It'll shrink and wrinkle, and there will be a clear line of demarcation only in the extremities. The next type of necrosis is wet gangrene, and this is when there's a lack of venous flow, so fluid is going to accumulate inside of the tissue. With this type, you're going to see the tissue liquefy. Infection will be likely. The tissue will be black, moist, cold, swollen, pulseless, and there will be no clear line of demarcation either in internal organs or the extremities. The last type of gangrene is gas gangrene, and this is an infection of injured tissues by anaerobic Clostridium bacteria. With this, you're going to see bubbles of gas form in muscle cells, and it can cause death because of shock.